Let's get all sorted. I'm James.
Jeff Smash.
What are you doing, Jeff?
You say we green.
Hello, Jeff.
Hey, James.
And hello, all listeners out there. Thank you very much again to our patrons. We appreciate the support every month. It is awesome and keeps us on the air. Are we in the air, Jeff?
We're in the cloud, I think. Even.
We're in the cloud. Thank you for keeping us in the clouds.
And if you'd like people to find us in the clouds, if you could take 2 minutes, go on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast and give us a rating, it really helps people track us down.
And not a 1-star or 0-star rating.
No, I mean, unless that's what's in your heart, in which case...
Then you do that. We support
sorry.
that.
Yeah, and we're doing our best here. We try.
You tried a good Hulk. That was a good Hulk.
It was
You said, I'm going to give you 40% Hulk. I was like, that's the best description of an attempt at doing something ever. It's like, give me your best Hulk, Jeff. And you're like, I got 40% Hulk.
I'll give you a 40% Hulk right here.
So we're going green, but not that green.
No, because that would be very messy. And we're trying to... Well, we're not trying. Let's back up a bit. Should we back up a little bit here?
You sent me a good article very recently.
Excellent.
It was more than good. Yeah, it was an excellent article.
I was just excited that you read it. I wasn't correcting you.
Okay.
But it was an excellent article.
Yeah.
And we'll have a link to it on our website.
Yeah, go check it out yourself. Go read it. But we'll kind of touch on its main points.
Yeah.
Because it got us thinking.
It did. So it all comes back to what Lego set out to do about 3 years ago when they pumped $155 million into a new sustainable materials center.
Was that krona or dollars?
This is dollars translated.
Oh, you've already done it.
Yes, American dollars even, which are better than Canadian dollars. It's just a fact.
It's just a fact.
Anyway, so that $155 million, they added 100 employees and they gave them the task of finding sustainable materials for Lego to use in all of its products by 2030.
100 employees seems like a lot.
It's definitely not just, putting a facade up of, look, we're going to try.
No, that's some material science guys and ladies that are working on this problem.
Yeah.
Like that's some people who with some know-how actually investigating real solutions, I feel like.
And they're already starting with their first salvo into this.
Yeah.
They've recently released a bunch of plants made from plants, which is a fun way of saying it.
Yeah.
But we'll break down.
Yeah, we'll break it down.
Yeah. But let's start with this solution. So these are polyethylene elements.
Yeah.
As opposed to the softer plastics they've used before for the plants.
I think they used polyethylene before.
But it's what the ethanol
That's right.
was sourced from.
Yeah, so exactly. So I think before they were using polyethylene because that's typically a softer plastic that like plastic bags, things like that. It's the whole ethylene family. They were sourcing I think the ethanol was coming from now a plant-based source.
Sugarcane now.
Yes, they're testing the waters. They dip their toe in. So selling it as a big old green set might be a bit of a stretch, but I think they're testing the water and probably seeing how people are going to respond to this.
But it's nice to take the oil out of that production of plastic.
As much as possible.
Yeah, so that's less oil that needs to be sourced.
Yeah.
It's more sugar that needs to be sourced.
Yeah, and that's a whole other set of issues that we can get to. I don't know, when do we want to...
Well, let's talk about the plastic itself. So
okay.
They chose this plastic because it doesn't need the same tolerances as, say, the ABS that they use in about 80% of their bricks.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to start.
Yes.
Because it already feels different than the ABS. It's softer. It's got that...
Yeah.
You've all felt the modern shrubbery. I'm sure you have some near you. Go grab some if you're listening to this.
It's got a bit more texture, a bit more... It's not so smooth.
Mm-hmm. And it's bendy. You can bend it with your hand.
Exactly. It's malleable.
It'll mostly come back into shape.
It's not translucent or it's a opaque product. So yeah, I think it was a good one to start with for sure.
Yeah. And that's great. However, they use this plastic in about 1 to 2% of all of the elements they produce in a year.
Yeah.
Now, to put that in perspective, they sell 75 billion elements a year.
Yes.
So 1 to 2% is still...
It's still quite a bit.
It's a significant number.
And I think it was a good place to start. It was you could see it as an easy start or an obvious place to start, but it at least is a start, and they needed to take that baby step because it's not, they don't want to jump straight in with trying to replace ABS or
no.
That's too, let's work on the outer edges of things.
Yeah, one of the problems is this already existed.
Yeah.
This is not a new material.
Right.
they just, it's a bit more expensive.
Right. And they're seeing how it fits into the line, and it seems, apparently it looks and feels the same. So, because it is the same.
Exactly.
It's just like the chain of things is the same. It's just sourcing one of you get the same product at the end of the day.
Yeah. So success.
Yeah.
Win. Victory.
I think so.
Let's all go home.
Yeah.
We're all done.
Now let's take off the baby shoes, tie them up, bronze them, set them on the shelf, and now let's put on the bigger sneakers, because I think we need to take some big steps now. So what's going to be involved in taking some big steps for them?
The main hang up is they use ABS in about 80% of their products, we said.
Yeah.
They make 3,700 different individual elements. So that's a lot. And the replacement for ABS does not exist in the world today.
Right.
So this is not taking an existing product and fitting it into your production.
No.
It's inventing something new, whole cloth, that not only has the look, the feel, the sound of Lego.
Yeah.
It doesn't shrink or over time. It doesn't break down over time.
Yeah.
It's going to be
The same clutch power, the same everything.
everything, and produced in their machines the same way. Because
Right.
that's the other thing. Different plastics shrink at different rates.
Yes.
So everything they put into a mold, the molds are bigger than the actual finished piece because it shrinks. And they know what the shrinkage is, and they have very, very exacting tolerances.
They have a lot of experience working with ABS.
Yes. And how do you put it into the molds?
Yeah.
Some plastics you can push with air. Some have to be screw fed in. All of this infrastructure to build the bricks already exists.
Right.
So it's not just a matter of finding a plastic that looks and feels and sounds the same.
That's going to work on all the existing molds.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a massive problem. And that 100 people now actually doesn't seem like very many people.
Yes.
So when you start breaking apart the problem and all of the points that they have to hit, the first step of sourcing out the different materials that they'll try out. So they'll try everything from various plant-based solutions, whether I don't even know all of the things that I'm sure they've gone through. If you were to look up alternatives to ABS or alternatives to plastic, they've tried them all at this point, and they're finding something that can get them close. But then it'll be things that matrix of checkboxes. What it'll be like, okay, we got the same clutch power. It's the same. We got the tolerances are perfect. It's works in the molds. With something we can get easily. It's a product that's sustainable. It's not going to destroy the environment when we gather it. We can regrow whatever it is, but it doesn't have the same sheen.
Yeah.
Or
The color's marbly.
or when you stir it around, it sounds sounds more brittle. It sounds like it's going to bust.
No Gristilling.
Yeah.
Gristilling?
Gristilling? I don't know. It doesn't have that same beautiful, the resonance of our intro. It doesn't sound like that. So that would be a problem, because I'd have to recut the introduction.
That's
Jeff.
right, yeah.
I don't want to re-record that. Don't do it, Lego. No, it's all these little problems that they'll get all of those, and then they'll like one thing they won't be able to get in that matrix of things. Next product.
Yeah.
So
it does everything, except now after 10 years, it becomes very brittle.
right, exactly.
Can't have that.
Yeah, so you got to do age testing, stress testing. Oh, it's so much material science stuff. Yeah, I can't even imagine trying to churn over your entire production. And then not only just sourcing it, but getting it to these factories, and then turning over the actual factories to go from, like you said, the way that they're used to processing ABS pellets. Now you've got to work with this other material that might have, different heating ranges, might have different, everything's different. So many challenges. And I think as soon as we started talking about it, you think most companies wouldn't do this.
Yeah, it is definitely, if it ain't broke, maybe we should look at it and see if it really is broken, and then
Yeah.
see if we can find a better way.
Because I can't imagine this is going to help their profit margins, because they either will have to eat the cost or charge a bit of a premium. But in the long term, they'll just have to either eat it or charge us more for the product, which could end up hurting the sales of the product.
I do think this is profit-based at the end of the day.
Okay.
And I think it will help
Because
their
the
profits.
price of crude has just gone up and up and up.
Well, there's that. So it takes 2 kilograms of oil to make 1 kilogram of ABS plastic.
Okay.
That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the cost of oil. I think there's that. And the oil will get scarcer.
Right.
as we go forward.
Yes.
So that's part of it. But I also think that there is going to be a reckoning for all of the plastic consumables that have been made.
Right.
And I think it's, we've talked about this before with Lego. Lego's terrible for the environment on its face.
Yes.
The ABS plastic is not good.
Yeah.
It eventually does break down, and it breaks down into the micro bead plastics, which get into
Everything.
from to humans at the end.
Yeah.
Because of just going through the food chain. And that's terrible.
Yes.
But Lego is also something that doesn't get thrown out a lot.
Right. So it doesn't end up in the ocean
Yes.
as much, unless the tanker goes down with the shipment. But none of us are chucking our Lego in the ocean.
But all of these plastic consumable toys
Yeah.
have come up. And we're going to get to a point where every city has segregated out all of their different wastes, and you're pulling everything you can that's recyclable, that's reusable, that's organic, and we're still going to be overflowing landfills because things like pop vinyl exist.
Yes. See, and that's where I think some of the collectible stuff is more insipid, because it's more likely to get turfed when someone leaves home, grows up, comes back and has to deal with their childhood stuff. They're going to have less attachment to some of this stuff. Lego it's not trend based. It's stuff that, like, my daughter is going to be getting she's getting gifted a pile of Lego from my brother-in-law, who had to clean out storage at his parents' place and was like, "Oh, I found out a bunch of Lego. Does your daughter want it?"
Yes.
Yes, she would love it.
Because even if it's, say somebody collected Lego Star Wars and they're going to gift it to somebody else, and for whatever reason Star Wars gets out of the consciousness,
Yeah.
the person receiving the Lego doesn't care that it's Star Wars Lego. It's Lego. It fits with all of the rest of the Lego.
Exactly.
Whereas if somebody has a collection of, Fallout vinyl figures from many, many different, I don't want to just single out Pop as like the company responsible for all
No.
of this. There's dozens of different
They were just one of
things.
the
And they
leading
might have,
faces of the...
say you've got 50 different Fallout characters.
Yeah.
In 20 years from now, is that going to resonate with anyone?
Exactly. Will it just be chucked or recycled, or will it still be a collectible?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
question. And so I think there's going to be a reckoning from that, and there's going to be a lot of political ill will towards that. And,
Right.
And I think 2030 is probably a pretty good guess
Yeah.
of when this reckoning is going to happen.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to say, that's not us.
I think as we go towards, electric cars and more green-based solutions for things, and electric power or renewable power becomes not just a buzzword, but becomes a reality more widespread, which 2030 sounds like it might actually be a good timeline, because then those things are going to be so mainstream that if you're out of step with that, you're going to look ridiculous. And so they don't want to be left in the dark ages when that happens.
For sure. And the problem might end up being the solution for Lego, because recycled ABS is a very good way to go, except that it's very energy, it costs a lot of energy to recycle.
Yeah.
But they happen to be in Denmark.
Right.
And they happen to be funding wind power farms.
Exactly.
So if they can take renewable energy to convert waste, and there'll be a lot of high quality ABS plastic ready for recycling
Yeah.
by the time they are ready to start recycling it.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see if that it still ends up being ABS, but they say, look at us, we are taking other people's problem and putting it into our product.
Right.
Which becomes multi-generational.
Yeah.
And not
And that becomes a whole
landfill.
other issue, though, as well, as the shipping and the transport of this stuff all over. Like it's such a weird global problem.
It really is.
It's just so, it seems absurd, the idea of trucking. Like we're trying to do our best to buy local produce and stuff, and then but we're going to ship ABS around the world. It does seem there's a contradiction in a lot of modern living, which I do think a lot of younger kids are going to be much more aware of, and probably like, why is my planet burning? Like after the summers we've been having, I think, kids are not going to be like, yay. It's like, oh, why did you guys mess it up?
I think we are recording this on the first non-record high day in
It's
2
true.
weeks.
Where it's just normal amounts of sweat in your office, not like 8 billion degrees. It's been unbearably hot. So yeah, let's go green.
So
Let's cut those carbon emissions.
that's true. The global transportation, that is another thing But I feel like that will change into 2030 as well. You've already got major companies working on electric long-haul trucks.
Right.
That will be...
It's the tankers that we need to work on.
But that's going to be next because
Yeah.
that's... As oil prices go up, the
Yes.
cost of shipping...
Exactly, yeah.
I know when I worked for one company and they bought a product from a company that was known for making their product in the States, and they started making a lot of products in China because it was so much cheaper, and oil prices got to the point where the cost of shipping it from China to the States ate up all of the savings of producing it in China. So they
Right.
brought all the production back to the US.
Yeah.
That's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
Oil's not going to get cheaper.
No, exactly.
So once the cost of shipping in those large tankers becomes prohibitive, the free market will produce greener tankers. That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
The technology has to already exist.
I have no idea. I
It's
don't
just a
know
matter
about-
of cost.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. So it is interesting that, Lego, a couple of those 100 people must be planners who are thinking about these specific issues and trying to work out the logistics of it all and look forward, use that crystal ball a little bit, but also what's here now, what's going to be here, where do we want to be in that whole chain of things.
Tackle the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah.
Like they've done with the polyethanol.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
It's encouraging to see a company of this magnitude, though, make even baby steps, because that's gonna ripple through the rest of the toy industry, hopefully, where people go, yeah, we should start thinking about that. Your Mattels, your Hasbros, all of your big companies to start being more aware of these things. I don't know what other companies are making inroads on this stuff. They must be thinking about it.
I wonder, though, too, because if you're a publicly traded company,
There's less impetus to.
your responsibility is share price.
Right.
So
Yes.
if you invest in long-range R&D,
Yeah.
that will keep your company healthy over the long haul,
Right.
you could actually be sued.
No, you're right. That's yeah, this is the Elon Musk dilemma.
Yes.
I want to go private, but, the issues with being a public company for sure.
For sure.
There's access to capital, but the consequences are being beholden to your shareholders, and that's not a good place for long-term decision making. Let's play the markets. It just, we talk about the free market, the whole concept of Lego being a private company makes so much more sense when you really do think about the economics of it all and about those stock market dynamics. It just is like, why would you want to get involved in that? Oh my gosh.
Yes, as long as you're healthy enough to
be able to sustain, financially, not need cash.
or even this year where Lego slowed down production because they'd overproduced.
Right.
Seeing the writing on the wall that they couldn't just produce more and more stuff, as eventually there would be no place to put it.
Yeah.
So Lego store sales were consistent, but their sales to stores went down.
Right.
Because there was a backlog of product to sell.
Yeah.
And that's a decision I think a private company can make.
Yeah.
Whereas a public company, it gets harder. Although they might have slashed those jobs years earlier.
Yeah.
To look healthier on the balance sheets.
Well, it's good that they're able to maintain, when they make a decision that might not appeal to shareholders. As a private company, they don't have to fire a bunch of executives as a show trial.
Yes.
And they're able to then retain that brain trust and have those people continue to make those long-term decisions, which is, you need that. You need the people who aren't just constantly paranoid about their own jobs, and they're able to make the best decisions for the companies because they really feel that I'll be here in 20 years.
Yeah, and sometimes they're hard decisions.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're easier decisions.
Yeah. So it's an interesting, it's a lot of those problems I would not want to have to. I did a tiny bit of plastic sourcing when I worked for a fiber optic company many years ago, and had to find, we had a polycarbonate cable, and I had to find a solution. So it's funny reading through these plastics. I'm like, I've dealt with issues related to these things. I was just like, it was a nightmare. Like, you're like, okay, we need a thing that'll handle a certain more torsion than polycarbonate, but we don't want it to be too pliable, but pliable enough. So what grade of polyethylene, what additives, it's the world of plastics is crazy. And I had no idea till I got into that role, but it's interesting. I empathize highly. As I was reading that article, it brought that all back. And I was like, oh man, yeah, I remember the headache. Also, it's fascinating to that whole world. So it must be exciting for Lego to be, whoever's working on these solutions, it must be an exciting thing to be working on something progressive, knowing you're making a positive impact on a company at such a fundamental level. So that they're going to have a foot, or their fingerprint's going to be on the future of toys.
And it's really funny because if they do their job properly, no one will ever know.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
That's the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
You might be you might make the most important discovery ever in the history of the company.
Yeah.
And everyone else out there will go, oh, good, Lego's still the same.
And it's like a friend of mine used to buy bins of Lego on eBay many, many years ago, and would get, he'd be like, yeah, you can't really tell. Like, it'd be like, yeah, you can tell from colors and stuff, but he has like, giant tubs of this stuff. And it was, everything from the 60s on. You just don't know some of it. And so the idea in the future, exactly that. You won't even know. You'll be able to mix in this new stuff with that giant bin of Lego. And you'd be like, I don't know, it's plastic, maybe.
You can still take that brick from 1958 and put a brick from 2018 or 2030 on it.
Right.
And that's the key.
Yeah, when was the shift? They had that from the 40s up till was it mid-60s where they were using something else? I don't even remember.
Yeah,
now.
they did in the 60s, mid-60s, they switched plastic because the first plastics break down.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was plastics in general in that time period.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, the crazy. And that's that, like you said, that long-term problem of like, will this new plastic hold up for
that's the question.
10 years, 20 years? Like that's
and
a lot banking on that.
This is the rare case where you're making something that has to be able to go 50 plus years.
Exactly. They're not writing in obsolescence.
Yeah,
they want it to last.
They want you to hand it down. They want you to send your Lego to Jeff.
That's funny.
At Still Sorting.
Yeah. Because it's just random people listening to a podcast about Lego. I was listening to this Lego podcast. Don't ask me why, but I got all those Rubbermaid bins of Lego out in the shed. I guess we should give them over to that Jeff guy.
I'm concerned that we've been doing this for how many years, and this is the first that I heard that you have a friend that just has bins and bins and bins of Lego.
He doesn't. He uses them for. He makes mega games. He has this. It's insane. But he has this mega game, and it's he makes war stuff with like tanks and things using Lego. So he'll have like the Red Army, and it's like he's made, because it would be, I guess it was harder at that time period to get board game parts, because he pillages board games and Lego and makes this insane thing. It's amazing. He's explained it, and my brain glosses out. It's so complicated, and it takes months to play. And I was just like, okay, but Lego was the perfect solution.
It's a miniature war game.
Yes.
But no miniature really. Like
it's mostly Lego.
Massive scale.
Yeah.
Like games that take place in
his entire basement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But anyway, that's why he has so he's not a Lego aficionado. He's repurposing Lego.
It's a building block.
Yeah.
That's Lego.
That's Lego. Exactly. It does that too. But yeah, I'm curious to see what other issues, implications will come up out of this.
That's the question, because I know, for example, in the food sector, palm oil became huge.
Right.
And because palm oil became huge,
deforestation becomes huge.
Big time.
Yeah.
And even companies that thought they were getting sustainably sourced.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a sustainable farm, but they're tapped out. So then they're subcontracting, and that company's subcontracting.
They're pushing people off of land.
Yeah.
And so you got human rights issues get into it. You're now deforestation at a scale where they're not replanting at all.
Not only that, after we run out of oil, we're going to run out of fresh water.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of water in farming.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see, what
it's a different set of consequences
are
for
making some changes. We'll see.
And then so it's not just there's going to be green Lego, but there's going to be shades of green Lego. Like there's going to be
and it's
how
all
green.
Still plastic.
Yes, at the end of the day, exactly. Yeah, it's a complicated one. So it's good on them for stepping up to the problem.
And like
you said, they have to, but it's good they have.
They're in with their eyes open,
right?
They know what they're doing. Like I've confidence in Lego to not just do it,
yes,
but to do it right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, it's not like you said, it's not a market reaction. They're being proactive. And that puts them in a much better position. It sounds like they've tooled up with the employees. They are a lot more. They're in a position to really come up with a good solution and not come up with one that's based on panic when in 2025 oil goes to whatever dollars a barrel and it threatens the entire toy industry. So they're not waiting for that to happen.
And that does bring up another point too, though. One of the reasons they're getting ahead of the curve is they want control of whatever product it is.
Right. So they'll have both, IP on it for the technologies involved, possibly, if they're inventing
or
a thing.
or if they're getting it from somewhere else, build in some sort of exclusivity,
Right.
at least for a large period of time.
Yes.
And that's interesting too, because they'll be like, hey, we found this plastic that's better for the environment,
Yeah.
but only we have it.
Or
Or if you want it, you get to come through us.
So they might be in the alternative plastics business as well as
Yeah.
the toy business.
So yes, furniture company, you can license this from us.
Yeah.
Oh, Mattel? Sorry.
Right. Shut out the competition. Yeah, I like that we don't just approach this as like two middle-aged fanboys. I do think we try to give a lot of leeway on a lot of the decision making that Lego makes, but also try to be critical of it and think, okay, like let's look at the angles. I agree. I think there's a lot going, like a lot of conversations that are being held and a lot of different aspects of this, like the environmental, the business, like long-term strategies. I wish I could be a little brick fly on the wall.
Yeah. It's everything they do seems well thought out ahead of time, which is nice. I mean, not everything. They did Galador. But even that, there was meetings and meetings and meetings and meetings, and they weren't guessing. They just did wrong.
Well, they're going to think out wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
They want to make sure they don't think this one out wrong.
But there is always in business a conflict between your stated goals and your goals.
Yeah.
And it's nice when their goals intersect with the public good.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, even though they're private, they're a for-profit business that needs to make a profit to continue in business.
This is an interesting one for them because it's a win-win, really. At the end of the day, It's good for business. It's good for the customers. It's good for their PR. It's good for everything. And letting out a little bit of the product as they go through the process and they're not being transparent about the process entirely, but they're attempting to get a little bit of goodwill marketing from it all and say, hey, we're working on it. Yep. And it kind of puts everybody at bay from being able to criticize them because they can be like, no, we're working on it.
And if they find a solution, if they're making 75 billion pieces of Lego, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of kilograms of oil does that take out of demand?
Yeah.
It would be a big shift in the world for sure.
I'll be able to drive my Hummer to your house even with no... the tank. I bought a tank just to specifically to come over here.
That sounds like the opposite of you.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. You didn't hear me roll up?
It's a tank, but he tows it with a Prius, so it's okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, it was interesting. I wasn't sure when we were talking about how to approach this topic. It was like, how much is there to really talk about? But there always is with these issues because there's so many peripheral issues that come out.
If they could find something that looks right and feels right but doesn't sound right, would that satisfy you? Or
Oh, I don't care. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because I think let's pretend Lego never existed and let's say company Lago is formed and puts out a product and that fits all the things, but it sounds a little more plasticky. It doesn't sound as deep and, rich of a tone when you stir it around. It sounds a little bit more brittle. Isn't, but it sounds more brittle. Yeah. Would I care? Probably not. If the product does all the things if Lago is this amazing thing that I can build all my imagination's desires with, what do I care?
That to me, sound is the bottom of the list for sure. If they can find something that feels the same, I think is most important.
Yes,
and then
I think so.
The look, because it would be annoying. But they've shifted colors so many times in the past.
As long as, like you said, it doesn't
even
look marbly
within
or
the ABS,
a high consistency in the color appearance.
Like when I stick all my orange together, the variation is it's startling how much variation there is in the orange.
Yeah.
Right, which is annoying for me because I love orange.
Right.
So even that,
yeah.
If it feels right, I'll be happy. If it has a higher tone in the sound, the other thing to remember too is it'll be a long time before the sound really shifts because there's so many hundreds of billions of pieces of Lego out there that every newborn starts with a box of Lego now.
Exactly. Yeah, there might be kids who come to see the old Lego as sounding weird.
Absolutely.
So it's who knows.
Don't reject things out of hand here, Lego.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think that must be one of the least important checkboxes in the Matrix. Is just like, if we can nail that one, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, yeah. And at least with polyethylene, you would never hear that. Well, again, it's still polyethylene anyway, so never mind. Yeah, I don't know. It is funny though when you do just on that idea when you play with knockoff building blocks or there's other toys. There's things that over the years, like if cleaning out my house, we have some old toys from the 70s or from the 80s, and man, those things have heft to
Yeah.
them. And it is funny when you get a new play thing today or you see a kid's toy, it is often feels like it's going to fall apart immediately, but that is our weird psychological perception. It might be all strong as all get out, but my perception is that because it doesn't have heft and weight and stuff, it must be cheap and badly made.
They're definitely engineered to be lighter now because of the cost of shipping.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
We're
entirely
going to cut away more plastic, and also just technology is better. Molding is way better than it would have been at that time period. So they can make these really good parts. Also, we have CAD.
Yeah.
We have computer design that we can do. They didn't have that. So the way they did things were super crude. You couldn't do crazy undercuttings and weird things. We can do so much now.
And I think there's some more low-hanging fruit out there for Lego. I know they reduced the size of their boxes already. I think they could reduce the size of the boxes by about 20% again. I know they need that shelf space, but I would rather they filled up shelf space with semi-permanent displays or rotating displays that show the sets built and took up less space in the shipping containers.
I agree, yeah.
For the sets. I still find way too much air
It's
inside.
absurdly inefficient.
And this is better than it was.
It's the same issue we've talked about with the board game industry too. I'm sure the whole game, like toys and games industry, the whole thing has this issue of we want to own the
Lego
shelf, we want standard
That's the
sizes.
thing. Lego has enough power to dictate. Walmart's not going to stop selling Lego. Toys R Us in Canada is
exactly.
not going to stop selling Lego. I mean, Toys R Us in the States stopped selling everything.
There's going to be some poor kid that has to shift the little price thingo down the slot a little bit to indicate that they've now opened up more shelf space. You think, if anything, they'd actually be happy that they have more products to show, not less. Like stores would love it.
It's tough because you do need. I get it, but I think if you have a display that shows the sets and you standardize how those displayed sets are stacked around it,
Right, I see.
it would make it really easy.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the other thing too is more and more people are shopping online.
Yeah.
So not only is Lego
Exactly.
paying money to ship that, now the consumer is responsible.
Yes.
And I mean, that being said, if you're buying from Amazon, even the box gets half the size it is now. They're still going to throw it in their giant box with 700 pounds of bubble wrap around it and send it off to you.
Well, all that's going to improve. And it also means smaller warehousing requirements wherever it's sitting.
Right.
Like you said, smaller shipping.
Less walking for the poor guy that's being timed on everything they're grabbing from the shelves.
No, there's a robot doing that. There'll be no humans. No humans will ever touch the box when the drone delivers it to my house.
Good times.
That's another matter.
But yet another reason for smaller boxes.
Yes, totally.
So Lego, take that step again. Keep cutting it down.
Yeah, I don't see any little thing you can shift. It is that trade-off, and hopefully over time it just continues to improve.
It is nice that almost everything inside is recyclable.
Yeah, by and large. I
Yeah.
mean, we have issues here with it has to be numbered for you to be. So the small bags, for instance, often aren't numbered. Those I don't know what you do with.
I put them inside the big bag.
I do that as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they just at the recycling depot just chuck them, because if it's not numbered, they can make number 7 with it, which is what all non-standard plastic should just become, as park benches basically. But whether or not the private company that does the recycling will deal with it or just throw it in the garbage.
That's
Who knows?
another issue for sure, because there's
But it's
a lot
annoying.
there's a lot of fraud in that industry for sure.
Yeah.
Where restaurants are like, oh, we recycle everything because they put it in a recycle bin,
Yeah.
and then a company comes and takes their garbage and their recycling, dumps it together.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth the money for them.
Exactly. As you say, the world.
The world.
But at least there's good steps being made. That's the main thing. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think here. I'm sure, again, another one of these. You know what? I actually don't know if anybody really does have strong opinions on this one that much, really. Is there anything bad? I hate the environment.
I'm sure there's people out there that say don't change. That's fine. That's your opinion. If you let us know why you think it shouldn't change.
Well, when you're gone and you've been turned into dinosaur fuel, we'll just use you up.
Yeah.
Later on.
But I'd love to hear what's most important. Is it the feel? Is it the color? Is it the color consistency? Is it the sound? When you're buying Lego in 2040,
Yes.
what's going to be most important?
What could Lego get away with changing
Yeah.
without losing you?
Yeah, how close do they need to get?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let me know. I'm on Twitter @StillSorting.
And until next time, I've been James.
And I'm still Jeff.